I saw It Came From Beneath the Sea on one of the greatest double bills of my life when I was a kid at a kiddie matinee. It was It and The Creature with the Atom Brain. Obviously two of the greatest movies ever made to me. I was 8 years old. And it was terrifying. I didn't know who Ray Harryhausen was. I didn't know how they did the special effects. I didn't notice there were only 6 tentacles. I wasn't into that kind of serious film thinking. It was great. It was exciting, and it was the kind of movie that kids want to see on a Saturday matinee in the 50s.
From Panama to the Arctic Circle, the western coast of America made ready.
Because it was a low-budget film, a lot of it was shot on location in real submarines, and it had Army and Navy people, and it was, the kind of macho movie. There's a plot in the movie about how the military guy wants to romance the lady scientist whose boyfriend is also a scientist, and that was not as interesting to me, I have to admit.
Girl has to have some secrets, doesn't she?
Well, Ken Tobey was, I think he was working quite a bit, but his big break came in The Thing from Another World, which was, unfortunately, is one of the movies where the cast is not even listed at the front of the movie. They're all listed at the end on a card. I don't know why it was done, frankly, but it was so they could sell Howard Hawks, the producer, who was also apparently the director. So I don't know that picture did much for him, but he did do a lot of supporting roles in pictures by Preminger and, good directors and good movies. He was in Beats from 20,000 Fathoms. He was one of the heroes, not the hero, but one of them. And that seemed to draw him into a genre thing.
My submarine is ready at Hunter's Point, sir.
As you know, Admiral, I have the authority to order a submarine, Captain.
Go ahead. You're commissioned to take any steps that seem proper.
Aye, aye, sir. You coming, John?
Absolutely.
And he had an authority to him. I mean, Ken was a no-nonsense kind of guy. He was a kind of a gruff guy, but a very, very good actor. And I think he wouldn't have had the career he did if he hadn't been good, because people, even up into his later years, were hiring him for pictures like, Billy Jack and The Candidate and movies that needed a specific kind of a guy. He was a union boss in The Candidate. He was also a very nice guy. And when I got a chance to put him in a movie, Howling, I had a cop role, and I thought he probably wouldn't do it. But he not only did he do it, he practically directed the whole scene. I mean, he was really on the ball. But he seemed to not mind being in these pictures, because sometimes you interview people and they go, "Oh, I had to do that junk," And he would always give it his all. He was always there.
John, this way!
Well, there really weren't many stories to tell, because when they shot the movie, there was no monster. So, the actors are constantly looking at points in the distance, and you have to focus on that there's going to be something there. And Harryhausen would bring the boards and the drawings and stuff and show them to the cast, so everybody knew what was supposed to be happening. But when the actual making of the movie is rather technical, and I think that's not a part of acting that he particularly enjoyed, was the reacting to nothing. Robert Gordon was typical of the sort of mainstream directors that made a lot of the Harryhausen movies. Because Ray Harryhausen was the auteur of the movies, really, because he would come up with the ideas for the movies with the producer, Charlie Schneer, and then they would try to find people to illustrate his ideas. And so there's a whole revolving door of directors, some of whom have a lot of personality, and others didn't particularly have a lot of personality. Former art directors, people who are good at doing the technical aspects that were so important to be able to make a picture like that on a budget. And Robert Gordon's credits are not especially distinguished, but he was like, they had a guy at Columbia, Fred Sears, who directed tons of movies, like, 10 movies a year, and gradually actually got pretty good at it, but never broke out of the B ranks before his death. Well, the stuff with Harryhausen is obviously a step up for Sam Katzman, who you got to remember is the same guy who was willing to make the giant claw without Ray, and ended up with a piñata with wings flying around, and it's the movie is technically a typical movie of that period. It's not, the script is not terrible, the acting is not terrible, but the monster is terrible. The monster is a terrible puppet. And Sam didn't seem to know the difference between a terrible puppet with strings and the work that Ray was doing, which was, very painstaking and realistic and had great lighting. as I said, we didn't know Ray's name because people didn't know those things then, and kids never read credits anyway. But the movies that he did, The Beast with 20,000 Fathoms, definitely had a personality. And it's hard to have a personality when you're a giant squid because most of you are underwater. But certainly the Venusian Emer and 20 Million Miles to Earth is, it's a character. It's a character in the movie. And it's usually more interesting than the human characters because they tend to be written as kind of cardboard. And although a lot of time is devoted to their interests in the movies because you can't afford to have the monster on screen all the time. So we are forced with, we have to see a lot of romantic, scenes that nobody cares about. But it is the monsters that people come to see. And I think to be Ken Tobey and be in a movie that that people came to see the monster and not you, it would make you think you'd really rather be in a Western right now. I knew Ray in his later years, yes. He and Forey Ackerman were very tight, and there would be lots of attempts to meet the fans and all that kind of thing. And John Landis is a friend of mine, and he's also a friend of Ray's, and we would have dinner and stuff. And so Ray was a wonderful, wonderful guy. And what was really great about Ray was that he, unlike Willis O'Brien, who was his idol, who died thinking nobody knew who he was, Ray got all the accolades. He got all the attention and appreciation for what he had done because he lived long enough for it. Unlike Lugosi dying just before all the horror pictures were released to television, so he died fairly unknown, whereas Karloff was able to reap a lot of benefit from the fact that his old movies are being constantly rerun. And so Ray really was one of those lucky guys who manages to have a successful career, retire, and be more famous in retirement than they were when they were working.